Some of that techno music.
So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is Season 8, Episode 319.
Deli meat equals hospital, solved unsolved mysteries, AI scientist, trapped astronauts in SpaceX, hidden consciousness, demonic terminology, and de-extinction.
Yeah. So it begins again. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And we have a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about, as evident by the long title
Yes.
that I stuck in there. Did you enjoy that?
I did not enjoy reading it 4 times. 4 times
Well, you know
now,
what they
y'all.
say. 4 times is progress, I guess. So it's all good. So anyway, welcome back to the podcast. Got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today. Let's talk about some things that happened in our last podcast episode. Okay. But before we do that, if you'd like to interact with the podcast, there's a couple different ways you could do that. We do have some social media type things for you to be able to check out.
You can find us on pretty much all social media platforms by searching for CreepGeeks Pod or CreepGeeks Podcast. We are trying to grow our Facebook group, so please join. That's the best place to give show suggestions, share interesting posts, and basically lots of memes too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here's a question. Why are we trying to grow on Facebook? It doesn't really do us any good.
So if you grow your Facebook group, it actually allows other incentives for the group admins to interact better with their fans, listeners, supporters.
All right. Sounds good. All right. I'm all tangled up in my cords, man.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. I didn't do anything but turn the volume down. It's just weird. Everything's acting weird today for some reason. It's Labor Day, by the way.
Playing too. Yeah.
I know it's still. Thanks for pointing that out. I was going to let it play out. It had 17 seconds left, but reinforce my ineptitude.
Okay.
So, if it's the very first time tuning into the podcast, we're usually slightly more organized than this, and it's really just one of those things where I think I set the jinx in motion by talking about, this thing's been great. We've been using it for a long time, and it's like, oh, you want some of this? Now you can't hear. I'm like, what? So, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, because think about it. We started talking about stuff. You started having a computer issue. I started having, the mixer issue.
I'm wondering if it's the whole valley we live in, though, because everybody's having phone issues. Everybody's
and internet issues.
Having internet, and everybody's
And we almost got attacked by a meteorite.
Yes.
Maybe it's all related. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Maybe this is one of those temp fate things.
Okay.
So if this podcast shuts off somewhere in the middle of everything, we uploaded it anyway. That's all I'm going to say about that. We got stuff to do. All right. So anyway, the CreepGeeks Podcast, we talk about basically paranormal news and weird stuff. And if we have strange experiences, we basically share them from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina. A couple different ways you can get a hold of us. We do have a toll-free number that you can call if you'd like to leave a message.
Yep. That phone number is 575-208-4025.
Yeah. Or Facebook.
Yep.
Like Omi was saying. Anyway, a lot of ways.
You can also visit our website at CreepGeeks Podcast, or is it creepgeeks.com? Yep. And click the Contact Us form.
We have a website that you could go to.
I'm tired.
It's www.
Oh, speaking of bad luck and stuff like that, I got stung 3 times by wasps today, so... Yeah, let's keep going.
You know what that is?
What?
It's the mark of the beast.
Oh, stop
3
it.
times with like 3 scratches.
So
yeah, you can send us an email.
I can't even remember our Instagram handle right now. So
CreepGeeks Pod, I think.
So,
well, anyway.
And our website. I'm just like, there's a
CreepGeeks.com.
contact form. Just go on the interwebs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, nobody talks like that, I guess.
You know what? Hush.
Is that what you're
Anyways, getting back to this massive fireball that caused alarm across
Well, we're not there
states.
yet because we need to go ahead and talk about something that we do have patrons, and we actually got a patron message, Patreon.
Yeah.
On Patreon, we actually scanned a copy of the geographical survey for the Brown Mountain Lights. It was just a quick scan because I don't know if that was against the law or not. I was just snapping pictures, and dude looked kind of slightly weirded out. But then you told me afterwards, typically people pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel almost bad about that.
Well,
so when I go back and do a complete scan, I will definitely kick up the 75 cents or whatever it costs to scan it. So the question came from John J. And it says, or he asked, did the geographical survey reveal the mountain is using the flower of life? Because those are some big magnets.
Yeah.
And it explains all the yellow ground bees.
Huh.
And so the answer is, I don't know, but that is something to think about. Not necessarily the flower of life, but the fact that there is a lot of magnetic things in the area. As in, just it's naturally magnetic to begin with. There's a lot of geological things like rocks, lodestone, whatever, ley line, type. So it does have an area of magnetism, like maybe a higher level of geomagnetism versus somewhere else. Not necessarily saying ley lines, although it's possible ley lines run through there, but I don't know. There's a lot of quartz. There's a lot of things in that particular area that make it sort of strange, including the possibility of a deep underground military base.
So I found out
two.
This one lady in our region, she does, what do you call them? Vortex hikes. And one of them is in the Linville Gorge and Linville Falls.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know what a vortex hike is, but I'm assuming
basically leading to a portal or where ley lines intersect.
And how does she do this?
She's done a lot of research on that stuff, allegedly.
Whoops out the old divining rod and walks around?
Probably. And she's one of those people that I've met her in person. I've talked to her, so I feel that, she's legit in what she does. So.
You mean, does she look normal?
Yes, actually.
So we started watching some more paranormal type shows as they pop up, and it's the same thing I noticed that makes me wonder. Right, I'm going to tighten up my mic stand. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that did zero. That did nothing.
It's okay.
But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people out there that do the paranormal stuff that if you look at them on TV, you're like, what is going on? Why would you choose to look that way? You're going to be interviewed and filmed. Why do you know what I mean? Why? And it seems like it's almost like a badge of courage or a badge of honor or something like that, where you got these people that are, into this stuff, whether it's, cryptids or paranormal or ghosts or whatever, weird stuff. And they embrace the weird sort of appearance. Like Giorgio Sakalos's, whatever his hair, I'm talking about, the guy's like alien sort of thing.
Ancient Aliens guy.
Yeah, Ancient Aliens guy. But if you're not an Ancient Aliens guy and known for that crazy hair, why are you doing it too? And it's just like...
So here's the thing, though. He has crazy hair, but for the most part, he's still fairly presentable.
Yeah.
Button-up shirt, typically a tie, sometimes not. Suit jacket during the original 10 minutes of the interview, at least.
Yeah.
So I had this weird thought when I was watching one of the paranormal people this weekend, and I'm just like... This dude's dressing like he's intentionally trying to make his ex-wife mad while he picks up the kids, like on his Harley or whatever. I don't know. It was just like a very let me buy every.
No, the guy wouldn't have a Harley. He'd have something weird like a 78 Honda. You know what I mean? Just like something that's cool, but it's just like out of place.
It was just like very just out of place when every single other person that was interviewed just, I don't know.
See, and the reason why I bring this up is last podcast episode we talked about, are paranormal people weird? Yeah. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have some degree of weirdness, just maybe, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but, run a comb through your hair or something. It's just, it seems like, because I always try to look at things from multiple perspectives, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're a paranormal person who's interested in that kind of stuff and you're watching a paranormal interview, you're going to overlook it. You're just like, heck yeah, man, I'm going to listen to what this guy has to say. But if you're looking at it from the outside, and maybe you got a wallet full of money, and you're like, I would like to find something to donate to. And you're like, this guy looks weird. I don't know if I want to do that. It just seems like it's not stereotypes. It's just like, let's reinforce the weirdness.
And see, I'm not
of
saying
the subject, and like, there's a person who's interested in the subject, and guess who looks weird?
Yeah, and I'm not saying people.
And I think that sort of takes away for some of the credibility.
Should conform. I'm not saying that.
No, but
but
making it. If you go to court, I would dress up a little bit. I'm not going to, I mean, that's what you do, right? Yeah. And I mean, I've been to court for traffic infractions. And I wore the dress pants and the shoes and the button-up shirt. Didn't wear a tie because then you're just sucking up. I guess it depends on the severity of the crime, how well you dress up. And I've had great results as I watched people showing up in jeans and T-shirts and sneakers get hammered. And my thought was, wow, I'm going to jail because this lady was throwing people in jail.
Yeah.
For like, well, it's Friday. We'll let you out on Monday so you can think about your, excessive speed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to jail. I didn't go to jail, and I looked nice, and it worked. It worked in my favor, so maybe that has something to do with it. It's just kind of strange. But, yeah, the question of, does the Brown Mountain Lights area, which includes Linville Gorge, is, the whole tree of life, right, or the flower of life with the magnetic lines of flux and all that jazz, and the addition of the extra yellow ground bees, because there is a lot of yellow ground bees. We just call them yellow jackets. You got the ones live in the ground, and you got the ones live everywhere else. There is a lot out that way. I don't know. That's something we should look at.
Oh, and I would say.
And so I was going to tell John the next time I have the opportunity to go and scan and pay for the geological survey, I'm going to see if there's more. Because when I looked through it, there was nothing that showed any kind of flower of life, a level of magnetism in the area, that sort of thing.
So, last week I had a few people asking about the Brown Mountain Lights, and I gave them information not just about the Brown Mountain Lights or the overlook, but Wiseman's View, as well as going down into the gorge and seeing the lights from there. But I forgot I forgot. The fact that we've had this increase in that type of thing, and just, I guess there's some video floating around YouTube that got more hits recently, asking specifically about the gorge lights. And I did have one person say, I heard it was related to magnetism. And I'm like, okay, do you remember what it was? Nope. So
yeah, this happens. It comes and goes. But if you look at any of the lights that reappear consistently, there is always plasma as a possible explanation, magnetism and plasma as an explanation. And so it just kind of goes from there, which would make sense, I guess. And then, quartz, large deposits of quartz rubbing together and creating a piezoelectric effect and then releasing little sparkles. So it is what it is. And then taillights, car lights.
Oh, that's what.
Lights in the sky, that kind of thing.
So I get updates from the Forest Service now every week. That's a part of my job. And the other week, the Forest Service lifted restrictions on climbing and navigating certain areas of the Pisgah National Forest, which includes Linville Gorge and a couple other places along the parkway. These restrictions were pertaining to peregrine falcon matings. So certain mountains and certain cliffs are off limits during parts of the year, like 6 months out of the year. Now that those are lifted, people are now welcome to climb and hike those areas. They're much rougher, more rugged areas. So I would love to start observing whether or not Brown Mountain Lights reportings increase right around now. So
well, maybe. I mean, if there's people there to see them, who knows? Speaking of who knows, in previous podcast episodes, we've talked about SpaceX and space junk smashing into the area. But it wasn't that long ago, within a couple weeks, where a massive fireball was sort of spotted streaking across the skies, 13 states, with over 200 reports of this big, massive fireball. Right, it's a meteor fireball.
Oh,
Ohio, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and so the fireball, which basically showed up at 9:45 p.m.
on Saturday.
And it disintegrated 30 miles above Exie, Kentucky, released the energy equivalent of 10 tons of TNT and causing a pressure wave that was audible to some people. And the meteor, which is 20 inches in diameter and weighed 400 pounds, traveled at 51,000 miles per hour. Right. And right now, it's unclear if any of the meteor fragments reached Earth, but they're saying that some may have landed near the Alta Pass in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Well, shock, that's not far from us at all.
Yeah.
And so eyewitnesses have described the event as rare and a spectacular sight. We do have a link to everything we talk about in the show notes of our podcast. If you go to CreepGeeks.com, and I grabbed this from coast to coast because it was interesting, right?
Yeah.
especially when they said Alta Pass. Because I'm like, Alta Pass, that sounds familiar. And I sent you a message, and you're like, oh, yeah, well, of course. I've been tracking this for, I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. So the area in which you have the likelihood of these things, chunks of fragments or meteor, if there is anything, it's like it's in our area, but also so was SpaceX trash.
Yeah.
Coming off the bottom of the Falcon capsule, what do they call it, the trunk? So
so there is a YouTube of it.
Yeah, I was going to say that,
Yeah.
that I've seen a couple things, but, I have a hard time with some social media because people will say this is what it is, but you can't tell if that's actually what it's from or not, or somebody just grabbed a clip or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I seen one on TikTok, and it's like, oh, that could be any meteor you see flying by.
Oh, well, this is a fairly reliable news entity, WCNC. So I'll go ahead and link to it so people can see it. And
Sweet.
I wonder, they're showing this dude on a road, and I'm like, so maybe we could go looking for this thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay.
What? I think it would be cool.
Well, okay. So we're just going to go chomp around in heavily dense area, hoping we can find a little chunk of iron, probably the size of a
we're gonna
gumball, if we're lucky.
We're gonna use the roads that my coworker showed us to get up to the road that parallels Blue Ridge Parkway and
Sweet.
look along that
So
road.
we can pop off the road and trespass
Not everywhere.
in an area that people do not like trespassers.
Anyways, I think we'd make some progress. So
Yes.
yeah.
So we just have to memorize the debit card numbers so you can bail yourself out of jail. That's a trick my buddy Dave told me. Happened to have his credit card information all memorized. I'm like, why is that? And he's like, if I go to jail, man, I know my numbers. And I'm like, that's genius. So if you're listening, Dave, it's cool, bro.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of strange to put that out there because it just seems like Starlink has been blasting, SpaceX. SpaceX has been blasting us multiple times, right?
Yeah.
And now we got this just random meteorite doing the same thing. So it's like the past 8 years has been relatively empty. And all of a sudden, within the span of like 6 months, there's multiple things blasting this area.
No, actually, so we had some increase right during the pandemic, like right at 2020. Then it tapered off a little bit. And then 2022, we had an uptick. 2023, we just missed everything. It was outside of our area. And now we have more stuff in our general
Well, I've
area.
been coming in and out of this area for 40 years.
Okay.
And I don't remember hearing about this kind of stuff. So maybe that's how it is. Things don't exist until they get on your radar. And then all of a sudden, it's a thing. Everybody else who knows all about it is like, no, it's not. It's like maybe the same thing with cryptids and ghosts and Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff, right? Get the enthusiastic sort of idea of notions that you generate from your 6 minutes of exposure versus somebody's 30 years of tromping in the woods, right?
Huh.
So, what?
Oh, they're just explaining where to go look.
Yeah, because that's helpful.
Yeah.
I bet some dude is just wonderful and welcoming the people tromping around in his yards and fields and stuff. So,
Okay.
there's a lot of people. So, speaking of listeria outbreak tied to deli meat, this may or may not have impacted us directly.
Yeah, so this listeria outbreak that's been tied to sliced deli meat has hospitalized 57 people and has killed 9 people. A total of 57 cases of listeria infection have now been recorded in 18 different states, according to the CDC. The outbreak has been linked to sliced deli meat sold by Boar's Head.
So, Boar's Head has always been pretty tasty,
Yes.
and you paid a price for it.
Yeah, because like their rare roast beef, which, wow, that's even worse. It's one of my favorite roast beefs compared to like other places.
Well, the 6 new deaths have occurred in Florida, Tennessee, New Mexico, New York, and South Carolina. So what state's missing?
North Carolina.
Huh.
Yeah.
So why would it be Tennessee, in South Carolina, without including like Georgia and North Carolina. You know, I think all that really means is that it's not been reported from North Carolina or even Georgia.
Yeah, or whoever got super sick hasn't kicked off, which is good.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Wait,
I mean, if
way
you
to be
think about
sensitive.
it, no, I mean,
like-
good for them. They're fighting it.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
And they may or may
Now-
not. It sickened 146 people.
Yeah.
In 2011, there was like an outbreak. And this was due to contaminated cantaloupe.
Yeah. Now, yeah, so this is the largest outbreak since then.
Yeah.
The current outbreak is tied to deli meats from Boar's Head, including the Strasburger brand liverwurst. Products sold at the deli may be contaminated with the
Well,
bacteria.
I'm marked safe
Yeah.
from liverwurst.
In a statement released July 25th, the company said they deeply regret the impact of this recall on affected families. Now, I'm wondering about this article. I don't think it's touching. So I've been following this because we had subs recently, and we both got very, very sick.
Well, you got more sick than me.
Yeah, I got scary sick, and that was last week, and it lasts about 2 days. Well, I guess the Boar's Head manufacture plant where these meats were made was investigated. Yeah,
It's pretty gross.
it was bad, y'all.
Filthy.
So, I mean, like that 1800s American novel about like how sausage was made terrible. So that's how bad it was.
That's specific enough for...
Was it The Jungle? Was that the name of that book? Oh,
I don't know. It was gross. But, you know, it filthy. Filthy. So if you have listeria symptoms, and I don't know what they are, and you've had some boar's head, it's entirely possible that maybe you got yourself a hold of, some tainted meat.
The Jungle, 1906 by Upton Sinclair. So,
You say that like everybody's read that book.
I had to read it in school.
Why?
It was to compare how the industrialization of America was basically lowering the conditions and standards for human life. Yeah.
That sounds like a teacher specific.
It was because it reflected,
Recommendation.
like, it was supposed to talk about industrialization making America grow, but what it ended up doing was reflecting the poor working conditions and exploitation of children and women in corrupt meat packing factories.
So basically what you had was a teacher who decided to push their agenda about how unions and stuff are the way things need to be.
It was covered in both grades.
What grades?
So 8th grade, and then I went to high school, and we had to learn about it in high school.
Same thing.
So, yeah.
See, what I learned about the Industrial Revolution is that it revolutionized things, and over time, things got better.
So this, however, was a big reason that, U.S. food safety happened. It also, in many states, triggered the whole, maybe we shouldn't hire 8-year-olds to pack sausages.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think this is part of how industrial hygiene became more and more. And it's not hygiene as in hygienic in cleaning things, but it's more hygiene in how the industry itself needs to take into account everything from the product manufacturer to the, disposal and all of that stuff. So,
1906, it sold 150,000 copies its first year.
dang, that's a lot.
Yeah. So
there you go. So anyway, if you've had some, and if we try to do public service announcements, especially if we think it may or may not affect us. Hey, did you hear about this? Well, no. Well, let me tell you something.
my tummy was upset for days.
Yeah. So there you go. If you got some boar's head, watch out.
Yep.
Now, who knows? Maybe you got it or not. But
And if you listen to earlier versions of our podcast, we provide the links to where FDA recalls happen.
yeah, because you
few
don't hear
months.
about them. It's like they got to
Yeah.
be big, before you actually hear about them. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. We have a bunch of that stuff in our house. And it's like, then you got to go throw it away because you don't want to crap yourself. It's a thing. So speaking of recall stuff, that was it. Because remember last podcast, I said that we have sections like to sort of keep things sort of organized. We have recall stuff, ghost stuff, conspiracy stuff, dystopian news stuff, Bigfoot cryptid stuff, UFO stuff, weird stuff, right? And animal stuff. Oh, and save the planet stuff. Just to kind of fill it out there. So speaking of ghost stuff,
Yeah.
these are 51 demonic terms, and we're not going to do 51s. There are 51 terms. 51 demonic terms that every demonologist should know.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a demonologist, but I would like to know some verbiage, some terms. So if I ever run into a demonologist and they start saying some things, I could follow along, especially if it pertains to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're involved somehow, it'd be good to have a good idea, maybe a slightly better understanding of what they're talking about.
Okay.
So the first one is abyss. And it's the bottomless pit, often referenced in demology as the dwelling place of demonic entities, a realm of chaos and darkness. That makes sense.
All right.
Yeah. A lot of these you already know. An altar is a sacred place in space used in the performance of black magic rituals, and you've got candles and symbology and stuff like that.
Or rituals in general.
Yeah. Or, you can go to any church, and a lot of them have their own sort of setup.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. I guess it's the purpose. But archdemon, it was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. It's a high-ranking demon, often commanding legions of lesser demons and known for immense power and influence within the demonic hierarchy. So this makes sense. Mm-hmm. And since we've been watching the show Evil on what is it, Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus, I think is where it actually says, we're becoming experts because it's an interesting show. I didn't like it at first, but it seems like it's either gotten better or I'm more open to it. Because I think the first time we tried to watch it, I was sick.
I think we both had COVID,
So
actually.
I was like, this show sucks. And just sat in a chair and just was, aggravated and grumpy for
So
2
COVID
weeks.
doesn't just affect your taste in food, it affects your taste in TV viewing
Yeah,
habits
I
as
had
well.
no time for it. It was just like,
Get to the plot.
yeah. And I remember watching the War of the Worlds when I was feeling really bad. I was really angry about
Yeah,
it.
because it was the BBC one, so it just dragged, and I'm like,
and it wasn't very good. I'm like, this me. So it was a grumpy time. Because the sicker I get, the more aggravated I become. Mm-hmm. I think that's my self-defense mechanism. Prickly porcupine kind of thing. It's just like,
so you're a sea urchin, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
At least you're not a sea cucumber.
Hey, that's what,
Because,
too angry.
they just expel their insides when they're agitated. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
But yes,
Like
an
a sea
archdemon commands legions of lesser demons, depending on what type of faith or Christianity or whatever that you follow. This could either be a reflection of like the 9 circles of hell, or in some beliefs there are thousands of circles of hell, so there are many archdemons that command these lesser demons.
So, circles of hell could also be like alternate realities.
True.
Parallel universe type stuff.
Which is why modern people believe there are much more than 9 circles.
Sure.
know?
It's like a multiverse.
Yeah.
What if all this is just related? Same thing with equal opposing forces, right? Good and bad. So it's the same thing. Your heaven could be multiple layers of just alternate realities.
Yeah.
Because there is the idea that it's becoming more and more popular where if you're somebody who escapes death, right? Or if you're one of those people or whatever, like you can have an incident and escape death and move on, everything is good. Or you could be one of those people where that something happens and you die and you instantly pick up in another alternate reality.
Yeah.
And just continue like nothing ever happened. Like you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So if you kick off, you just wind up, gaining your own consciousness in a car going down the road and everything is how it is and that's how it's ever been. And you just keep rolling through all of it. And there'll be small traces of past realities or past existences all sort of together. But
Yeah.
so attachment is one that everybody's heard. It's a state where a demon latches onto a person, causing negative influences and gradual possession without full control. That's every Zach Bagans episode.
Yeah.
Banishment, which is a ritualistic expulsion of a demon.
Binding is a little confusing in my opinion because in their specific frame of reference, they are saying it's a powerful incantation or ritual designed to restrict a demon's movements or activities, rendering it powerless. However, in some faiths, you can actually bind a demon or negative energy to you, which, yes.
Yeah, or an object,
yeah.
like a Dybbuk box.
Yeah. So basically you are restricting or actually empowering the demon to move within you or within a specific object.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So blood magic is a powerful and dangerous form of magic that uses blood, often from a living being, to amplify the potency of spells and rituals. Everybody's heard of conjuring and covenant, but candle magic is a form of ritualistic magic using candles where different colors represent various intentions and powers, often used in hexes and curses. And a lot of these are all combined.
Yeah.
You use, blood magic and candle magic and, let's see. Dybbuk. We know about Dybbuk. But they're saying that Dybbuk is a malevolent form or spirit from Jewish folklore that possesses living beings, causing harm and stress until exorcised. Familiars, everybody's watched Harry Potter. I would think, right?
Yeah.
But it does go into talk about some things like earth elementals or nature spirits, like gnomes. But they can be invoked in black magic. So it's kind of weird. Let me see. Hex, we know that. Imps, mischievous demons, small mischievous demons. Infernal hierarchy is a structured ranking system of demons from lesser imps to provide to powerful archdemons. So even the demons have a hierarchy of who serves what other demon.
Yeah.
And so they'd be in there. And so each one of those, like imps that serve powerful archdemons, have their own distinctive role and territories that they cover. So you got Legion is a group of mini demons. Malfeasium. You know what that is? Harmful magic or sorcery. Typical involving...
you said Maleficium, and I'm going back to my old weird Latin classes where I guess when you take Latin, your teacher can either take you to the old Greek pronunciations or the modern Catholic church pronunciations, and I'm used to the C being a hard K in certain instances. So I'm like Maleficium. Yeah, but it's probably either. I don't know. So
there we go.
Yeah.
Pentacle is a protective symbol used in rituals to summon or repel demons. Typically a 5-pointed star within a circle. We refer to it as a pentagram. It could be both. So it could be good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Here's one. Poppet is a doll used in sympathetic magic representing a person, basically whom the caster wishes to direct their spells. So what's a poppet? What do we call a poppet? Voodoo doll.
Yeah.
Sigils, symbols believed to have magic powers. I'm trying to find some ones that are, witch bottle. This is can go gross. It's a protective charm filled with various items like herbs, nails, bodily fluids intended to ward off evil spirits and curses. But you can take that the other way, make a sweet jar for other things, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. Do we want to do one more of these? These aren't as exciting as I thought that they were going to be when I started looking through them a while ago. I'm like, ooh, that's cool.
I don't go right ahead.
Yeah. I mean, most of these, I think if you have seen television or watched the show Supernatural or anything like that, you already know.
Yeah.
Gotta do one more.
Okay.
How about talisman?
All right.
I like talisman. It's an object believed to contain magical properties that bring good luck or protection to the bearer, often created and charged through rituals.
Okay.
There you go. It can also be handed down, generationally speaking.
Yeah.
And basically charged by the wearer or holder, with all that intent. It's your old witch bottle. Talisman and stuff. All right, so that's enough of the ghost stuff that we're going to talk about. But here's some conspiracy stuff, and this is just more of an idea more than anything. There's no real proof to it or anything, but it kind of concerns what we talked about with SpaceX, right?
Yeah.
In a roundabout way. So the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is grounded because of the explosion that happened.
Yeah.
All right, so this thing has made multiple routine landings, and all of a sudden it had problems. It basically crashed, and now they're like, oh, the Federation Aviation Administration has got to look at it and do an investigation. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring this up is because, so they're grounding it, and they said, with the failed landing attempt, we got to look into it and see what's going on. It's a reusable rocket booster, and it basically did its 23rd mission. So this thing has been up into space and back and landed successfully like 23 times.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Boeing, with their problems,
Yeah.
they put 2 astronauts up there, up to the International Space Station. They can't get them down because this thing has had continuous helium leaks.
Gosh.
This thing shouldn't have flown in the first place.
Yeah.
And so the question is like, are they grounding the SpaceX Falcon 9 and doing an investigation to give Boeing a chance to maybe fix some of the helium leaks?
Or catch up.
Yeah, and because, I mean, it just seems like the obvious choice for some of these things is to use SpaceX.
Yeah.
Boeing has had issues from the beginning of all this. And now there's 2 people, but they're not even going to they've been up there for months. They're not even going to get back until after next year.
Yeah.
Like the new year is going to roll up and they're probably going to be able to get.
I thought they were only supposed to be up there for a few weeks. 8
exactly.
days.
Yeah, they're only supposed to be there for 8 days. Now they're going to be up there for like 6 months. Because that thing is a piece of crap. The Boeing I think it's called Starliner.
Is there food?
Of course there's food.
Okay. No, I'm genuinely.
No, because they get regular, their Russians have their capsule to go up there and they bring them supplies and stuff. And guess who else does it? SpaceX does it too.
Yeah.
They send supplies up. So SpaceX is going to have to bring them back. But it just makes me wonder if this is some sort of like tit for tat kind of thing. Oh, let's make sure that, let's go ahead and sort of ground SpaceX for a minute to let everybody know that, space is dangerous and take some of the heat off of why this Boeing Starliner, right? They're going to spend it for like 240 days. So what the astronauts going to be, so the Starliner is a piece of crap, and evidently it is.
Yeah.
To make it sort of equal, like, Starlink, I keep saying Starlink. SpaceX, because see, they launched Starlink satellites, of course, with SpaceX and Falcon 9 and all that stuff. But like, why are they doing this investigation when they should be looking at Boeing? There should be like, hey, Boeing, guess what? Your Starliner doesn't work because it's kind of dangerous, and we understand that space is hard.
Yeah.
I just think that they're putting more attention, and it's like a diversionary tactic. It just seems kind of off to me. I don't know. And it's like, and they've done this with the investigation and grounding them. It's like the second time. And like every month, it seems like they're trying to ground them.
Yeah.
It seems like they're trying to hold them back for whatever reason. When they, like I said, they should be looking at Starliner. I mean, Starliner had problems, man. It could have been really bad. You don't want helium leaks. You don't want leaks of any kind. And something that's designed to, you're sitting on top of a controlled explosion.
Yeah.
So, so when the FAA announced the pause on all Falcon 9 launches, and it basically puts off some of their planned missions until the agency completes the investigation, says it's going to push everything out. And they were going to launch, SpaceX was going to launch their Polaris Dawn mission.
Yeah.
Which is going to take like 4 private citizens to put them in space for like 5 days. And it's already been delayed twice. I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know. It seems unnecessary.
It does.
I think FAA tried to ground them one time and they just launched anyway. They're like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So, and I think that was sort of a, hey, look, we understand what you're saying, but at the same time, we're launching on our own and we don't care because you've got too many governmental hurdles in place because it's just a thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at it differently, but I know I wouldn't want to be on the Starliner. So, I think the most aggravating thing of all is, so SpaceX is going to bring them back, these 2 stranded. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, they have to bump 2 people. So 2 NASA astronauts get bumped to bring these 2 people back. So the NASA astronauts been training super hard. And now they're like, oh, sorry, guys. We have to bump you.
Yeah.
And then who knows if they'll ever get a chance to go back in space. So it's kind of nobody really wins with this sort of thing. But I wouldn't want to be in the space station. You're only expected to go for 8 days. You didn't bring any extra underwear. You have to think about it, right?
Yeah.
240 days later. So who knows? All right. So here's something you need to worry about.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So guess who's created an AI scientist?
Who?
I don't know. I'm trying to click on that. Right. No, but so according to Science Alert, which now I don't have internet, so I can't tell you. But
Okay, so it looks like newly created AI scientist is about to start churning out research. Scientific discovery is one of the most sophisticated human activities. Basically, last week, Sakana AI Labs announced that the creation of an AI scientist, an artificial intelligence system they claim can make scientific discoveries in the area of machine learning in a fully automated way. Using generative large language models, LLMs, like those behind ChatGPT and other AI chatbots, the system can brainstorm, select a promising idea, code new algorithms, plot results, and write a paper summarizing the experiment and its findings, complete with references.
yes.
Sakana claims the AI tool can undertake the complete life cycle of a scientific experiment at the cost of just US $15 per paper, less than the cost of a scientist's lunch. These are some big claims. Do they stack up? And even if they do, would an army of AI scientists churning out research papers with inhuman speed really be good news for science?
I don't think so, because who's going to double check it?
Yeah.
We're already stupid enough because of AI and just things in general. So now we're just going to let computers. This is our end.
Yeah. On top of that, it's been in the news recently just how environmentally unfriendly AI has been, and made jokes about, like, for X amount of silly pictures you generate with AI equals pretty much lighting a house for a week type thing, you know? So for them to make a claim like, you know, oh, this can crank out an entire research project in $15, I'm a little skeptical.
I don't like the idea behind it, because AI doesn't care about emotions or anything involved. With humans, it's supposed to be facts and figures, right?
Yeah.
Zeros and ones, that kind of thing. There's no humanity in it.
Yeah.
And I don't like the idea of, let's just go ahead and set computers off to figure everything out and AI off to set everything out, or to figure everything out for us. And it's going to combine different AIs together. We're just asking for not even Skynet.
Yeah.
Worse than Skynet.
Yeah.
Skynet is an idea that's been kicked around since the 70s, right? Let's make the movie about Terminator and all that stuff and how Skynet was doing this and that. This is way beyond that. You know what I mean? Like when you watch old shows, like old sci-fi shows, and you look at some of the high-tech stuff they had in these old sci-fi shows, and you're like, wow, that looks like complete trash compared to technology and movies and stuff and the special effects and everything that we have now in our idea of sci-fi, how science fiction becomes science fact. I don't like this.
Yeah.
I just think it's problematic, man. It's going to be problematic.
You know, what if one of these research opportunities, you know, they tell AI, come up with a low-cost energy resource, or come up with a new way to power buildings.
Yeah, and it radiates all the humans in it.
Or worse, it's like, well, you know, let's mine the entire lower half of Africa till it falls off, because it's not taking into consideration humans.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Or like, this power supply is super great. It'll power your building forever, but it basically makes all your hair fall out and teeth fall out and you just die from it. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I know it's probably way more. I would think checks and balances be put into place, but for $15, what kind of checks and balances are they really going to look at and enforce?
That's like the Temu
it's
money
like
back
Fiverr.
challenge.
No, it's like Fiverr. Create, I need a scientific research paper, and you pay in Fiverr, right?
Yeah.
Because in Fiverr you have choices. You get the guy for $5, or you get somebody who's like, I'm going to charge you $100 or $300, whatever it winds up being. So of course, the more cost, the better results. But still, I think, and how many people are going to rely on this? I can see a really poor country relying on this to create some sort of scientific thing and then implement the scientific thing and causing issues, like nuking your own country or something. I don't trust it. I don't trust robots, because it's a short leap, it seems, from a robot doing what you say and what you want to a robot basically just attacking and killing you to death. It won't take much, because use a robot, it takes the humanity out of the entire thing. Well, I didn't really drone bomb everybody. It was, you can put it on the robot, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually you're going to automate them, and let's make them completely automated.
Well,
and then what happens?
I forgot to tell you about this. So fully automated AI is in the news again right now, because like this is writing season for most authors.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a great time. And NaNoWriMo is like this writing November, basically. And this is also the same time period most Amazon authors release new books. Well, some guy tried to automate writing books and sell them on Amazon. And some of these I actually had in my cart, and there were things like the Forager's Harvest Bible and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Or something, I don't remember the exact name. Well, this guy got AI to write like 4 or 5 books, one of them specifically mushrooms. And he published them like Amazon and Amazon UK.
Right.
Somebody in the UK bought one and nearly killed his whole family from the mushroom foraging book.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now
to
imagine
make it worse,
that AI is like take these mushrooms and make shoes and just rot your feet off because you didn't spend the extra $10.
to make it worse was he did the same thing I'm very guilty of doing. Let's just grab the book and go, right? And him and his family are out foraging. Didn't sit down and read the book first. Went out, foraged, grabbed some stuff, ate it. Whole family got sick. Well, the lawyers started to review all of the books, and some of them are clearly AI to the point where it's like, and that about sums it up for foraging in the UK. Is there anything else I can help you with? That made it into the Kindle book.
Sure, why wouldn't you just copy and paste?
And it made it into a print edition of the book.
Just copy and paste, baby. That's all you got to do.
But
Remember how I sent you that thing? Says, I'm doing this, and you're like, that is complete scam.
Yeah.
You can't use it. I'm like, I'm gonna be a writer, and you got it all worked up over. I watched that stupid video for like 40 minutes trying to figure out, and they were like, oh, only for $1,500 you can write Kindle books. So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I just wanted to help me spell better.
Yeah.
Because I'm about done with what's that little spelling thing that I hate now? It pops up.
Grammarly?
Grammarly is just getting too big for its britches.
But see, that's what happens when AI goes unchecked. This dude posted books on Amazon and other platforms and blatantly plagiarizing, pieces from blog posts and other things, but then grabbing the AI was smart enough to not grab the picture in the blog post. It grabbed the picture from someplace else, and it turned out those pictures were all toxic mushrooms.
Well, I'm hoping that the guy wasn't smart enough to use a disclaimer so that he can be taken out of this entire market thing.
So this court case just started, I think, last
because
October.
if you don't do a disclaimer, then you can be held accountable, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a thing. We already have enough problems with technology in general, just basically making us not smart.
Yeah.
If AI is going to fix everything that's problematic, like I got it right here. Hi, how can I help you today? It's in everything. You can't get away from it. It's going to be in every phone. It's in every computer. It's everywhere,
if you
right?
buy the new Google phone, it comes with a year of Gemini AI.
Sure. And Apple's going to put it in their phone. Everybody's going to have it. Google has it. It's everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So eventually we're going to be dumbed down to the point where our just overall intelligence is going to decrease because we got computers to figure it out for us. We have AI, which is algorithm. It's all it really is.
Yeah.
We already have that problem now. I mean, you have people out there that can't change a tire. They don't know. They don't know the physical sort of task of it. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to take away the intellectual task of it, like writing correctly, using proper grammar, writing in cursive. All of that stuff is going to the point where if the computers and the AI band together into robots, there's nothing we can do about it because we're not smart enough to figure out what's even happening until it's too late.
So, say we get AI involved in medicine. Well, we all know certain compounds of certain medicines are literally one molecule off from something very deadly. Or, only,
it's the dose that makes the poison.
Or a molecule in one compounding away from something deadly. And the same for, these mushrooms. Some of these mushrooms look so closely alike, it's impossible for AI to determine what's a safe mushroom, what's not.
Yeah, especially considering we've had 100,000 years of people foraging and eating and stuff, and they knew what was dangerous and not dangerous, and we don't teach that anymore.
And AI's ability to learn is machine learning, which means yes, no, yes, no. So when it comes to foraging, yes, it killed the person. No, it didn't. Okay, so now I can put it in this bucket. It didn't kill this person. So how many more? So And
Less people got killed, so it must be okay.
or yes, it did. Further testing required.
It's always a problem with scale, right?
Yeah.
Got 1 million people and 100,000 die. That's acceptable.
So yeah,
I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't either.
And that's why I have a hard time when you bring mushrooms. Yeah, we can eat this. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we can. And things look too similar because nature is amazing. That's
why we don't eat any of the ones that are similar. I only try. Which is why I don't bring a lot of them home for eating, is because there's too many lookalikes for certain things.
Yes.
And some foragers will, like, there's this one group right now where somebody's been telling people to eat a certain mushroom that traditionally in the past you don't eat. You don't. In fact, I have a book from a decade ago that says, do not try to eat this one. And they're eating them in small quantities. And I'm like,
why?
Why?
See, I have a thing that you can live by. When in doubt, throw it out.
Exactly. This household, we eat morels, chanterelles that are thoroughly checked because there's a couple of lookalikes. And we have yet to eat it, but lion's mane, because it's hard to confuse those ones. Or they have few lookalikes. I mean, chanterelles might look like jack-o'-lanterns, but jack-o'-lanterns grow directly in wood, So, but it's careful rules like that you have to learn through experience and through finding it on the ground. You're not going to send a robot with AI out into the woods.
Yeah, who fact checks all this stuff?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if an AI says, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
You're like, I believe that, and then it kills you because nobody had a chance to check it.
Yeah.
Because it's too hard to check, because we're too lazy and can't figure out how to check it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pulling from millions of sources, right, to determine the information.
Yeah.
So sure, there's a higher likelihood it might be correct, but at the same time, it only takes that one sort of bad experience to kill you to death, I guess. I don't know. We're probably just rambling about this, but
okay. So should we go on to?
Yeah, we're going to go on to solved, unsolved mysteries.
Yeah.
Now, this came from Cracked, right? Because, I just thought it was kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I put this in here, because my goal is for it to infuriate you.
Yeah, I just read the number 25, and I'm angry already.
When Omi gets fired up, it's kind of fun.
So
because it fired me up too. Some of these, I'm like, come on, man.
So these are, according to Cracked, absolutely wild unsolved mysteries that are apparently anything but. Read below for more solved mysteries.
Yeah, read below for some rage.
Yeah.
Rage bait. So is this a rage bait thing?
I think so, because the very first one is Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart's disappearance is one of the greatest mysteries of our time. She disappeared in 1937 while attempting to fly around the world in a twin-engine plane, except that we found her remains in 1940. The bones of a white woman with Earhart's measurements, a pocket knife, and a broken cosmetics jar, and a piece of windshield glass were found on Nikomuru.
Yeah.
Yeah, an island southeast of where Earhart was headed. Now,
we don't need to discuss them all because that would take forever. But
honestly, that just makes me mad because 1940. No offense to anybody, it could have been any white woman. It could have been any person.
Well, I mean, it was a remote desert island, but I get where you're coming from. This one, I thought, would infuriate you because it did me.
Yeah.
The Bermuda Triangle makes ships disappear, and then the gotcha part is just like the rest of the ocean. Right? You got to read it like that. It's like, okay, so they're saying, yes, it happens, but guess what? The ocean does too, right?
Yeah.
Sailors since the 1700s have seen the Flying Dutchman floating through the air. They're experiencing a mirage called basically Fata Morgana.
Yeah.
Which is basically a reflection that shows up in the water vapor in the sky. It's like, okay. And you're like, I'm getting slightly aggravated, right? A third of people polled believe in ghosts. Right? Mm-hmm. And then this one, they must have active left temporal junctions.
Oh, gosh.
The scientists have found that a small electric shock to that part of the brain, which is responsible for self and other distinction, causes a person to see someone else in the room. Oh, all right. Pope Benedict declared the Shroud of Turin the authentic burial robe of Christ, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it's 1,300 years too new. Well, here's what I would like to say. Actually, it's just been recently tested again, and guess what?
What?
It's older than being 1,300 years too new.
So,
Like, it's to the point where they're like, this is looking pretty legit.
yeah.
It's a recent thing. Like, wow, okay.
Oh, the sailing stones in Death Valley move around by themselves.
Yeah, with a little help from water and wind. It's like, okay.
And they're trying to explain that it's what do you call it? A slick surface that strong winds can blow stones across, when actually it's condensation and the process of condensation, recondensation.
Yep, freezing and then refreezing.
Yeah.
Freezing, thawing, going back and forth. Yeah.
The Roanoke colony.
Yeah, vanished without a trace, except for the trace they left at the colony site.
Oh, gosh.
And it's like someone carved the word Croatan, right, into a tree, and Croatan was the name of a nearby island inhabited by natives, and researchers have since found traces of European goods on Croatan. And blue-eyed natives. I mean, that was even from my school, like growing up, my schooling.
I think they call them illusion down here.
No, they don't call no. Don't start the Melungeon thing. That is a thing.
All right.
It's not a bad thing, but it's a completely separate thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So mankind has spent centuries pondering how the pyramids were built. The answer, terms of skilled laborers. It's like, okay, man, now you're just doing it just to be funny, right?
Yeah.
Mystery spots are paranormal sites where gravity behaves erratically. And mystery spots is kind of like, we have them around here where you can be in a building or whatever and standing at a 45-degree angle and everything's level. And you're like, what? What is this? At least, or that's what tilted buildings make you think. They're just saying, oh, well, the building's built crooked.
Yeah.
And they put a level floor in it. So when you're standing level, since the building is crooked, everything looks crooked. Yeah.
Okay.
So mystery spot houses are often rotated 20 degrees, which screws up your sense of perspective so you can't tell where the horizon is. So everything looks crooked to you because you can't see something that's straight. Yeah. The Nazca lines in Peru must be the work of aliens, or they were done with stakes and rope. It's like, okay. Which is, whatever. And then there's some other ones in there, but
These are awful.
yeah. The Mena Mounds of western Washington have confounded explorers since 1841. They're gopher mounds. It's like, okay. Yeah. And there's some other ones in there too, like a sewer cam captured this pulsating monster. And then the answer is, it's just a clump of worms.
Yeah.
Corpse candles or will-o-wisps trick people into wandering into graveyards and bogs, and they're also known as marsh gas or methane.
Okay.
So, decaying biomatter gives off heat and methane that can ignite, causing low candle-like flames in cemeteries and swamps. Sure. UFO stuff. UFO sightings have been the stuff of legends since the 1950s. Right around the time of the Avro VZ-9AV Avro car.
Yeah.
It was a Canadian flying saucer that the U.S. took over and subsequently scrapped. The main problem was vomit-inducing balance issues.
Yeah.
So I don't think they had thousands of these things flying around when they were having thousands of reports.
Yeah.
They ran like 4.
Number 1 is probably the rudest one.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. That one's yours.
Human magnets have the mythical ability to cause objects to stick to them. Unless they take a bath. How rude. Yeah. How rude is that?
Well, sweat and bodily oils make people sticky.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah, so if you're just sweaty and sticky, then guess what? Things will stick to you. Gross. But I do like the one that I was going to say. Number 2, the second one is aura photography captures the magical glow around your body. Specifically, it photographs your sweat.
Okay.
Because they say aura photography zaps a person with electricity, ionizing the air around them, and if the air contains any water, sweat, for example, it causes a glow. Okay. Well, explain the different colors then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of those are just like, they I don't know. You're reading it, And you're like, oh, yeah, I like this. And then people are like, well, but that's because you're stupid. It's really a clump of worms, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay. And some of them got me, made me a little fired up. So this I wanted to put in here because it cost me a little. It's all right. So it's a specific situation, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you're like in a coma.
Uh-huh.
And so the question is like, is there any real consciousness there?
Yeah.
And people are in comas, they can't react or whatever. Do you pull the plug or not? And then, some people are like, they're really in there. I know they're doing it. I know they're there. And then, they just pull the plug and then you kick off. And you know how you kick off, right? A lot of cases, you just starve to death.
Yeah. Which
is horrible. And so what if you're alive, but you're stuck in your own body, in your own mind, you can't do anything, and they're just letting you starve to death?
Or choke.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying, right? So there's a groundbreaking study that reveals hidden consciousness in up to 25%. 25%, a quarter of unresponsive patients.
That's too many.
Yeah, I know. That's the horrible thing, right?
Yeah.
And so they did a recent study, and it brought to light the astonishing findings regarding hidden consciousness, which challenged long-held perceptions about unresponsive patients with severe brain injuries. And this is from the New England Journal of Medicine, so this isn't like livesciencejournal.com, right? It's like, so hidden consciousness was formerly termed cognitive motor disassociation. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's basically a state where a patient's cognitive abilities, such as understanding language and following commands, are intact but not outwardly observable due to a severe motor impairment. In other words, the brain is willing, the mind is willing, but the body can't.
Yeah.
So patients with brain injury who are unresponsive to commands may perform cognitive tasks that are detected on a functional magnetic resonance imaging, or basically MRI, or an EEG.
Yeah.
And so this phenomenon known as cognitive motor disassociation has not been systematically studied in a large cohort of persons with disorders of consciousness. But they did a study with 353 adult participants across 6 academic medical centers in the United States, UK, and Europe, right? And of those 353, 241 were classified as unresponsive and unable to show visible signs of consciousness when given simple commands. However, using advanced neuroimaging techniques like the functional MRI and EEG, researchers identified that approximately 25% of those unresponsive patients exhibited brain activity consistent with following commands.
Yeah.
Such as like imagining opening and closing their hands. So those findings that they have basically expand on previous studies that suggested only 15%. To about 20% of the patients may exhibit hidden consciousness.
Yeah.
So according to researchers, anyway, we're not going to go too far into it, but the studies suggest that these patients may have been prematurely classified as vegetative or minimally conscious, which could have influenced decisions regarding life-sustaining treatments or withdrawal of care. So what if you're in a coma?
Yeah.
Because maybe you fall off a ladder trying to put solar panels on your freaking van and you break your neck and you can't do anything. But your mind's live.
Yeah.
And you're like, and it's just an awful, awful thing. But they say that once hidden consciousness is identified, medical staff and caregivers may want to take a more engaged approach to interacting with unresponsive patients. And the implications extend beyond clinical care, as understanding that a patient is conscious could lead to improved emotional and psychological support from families who might otherwise have been unaware of the loved one's cognitive state. Especially when you have doctors saying, oh, well, there's nobody home, man.
Yeah.
Just pull the plug. And, as much as doctors do good, a lot of them have their own egos, and they're like, I am a doctor. This is how it is. And because they have to, I just have problems, man.
Yeah.
So I think that they need to start doing, of course, more research on this, but implementing a way to determine if these patients are basically cognitively aware. Like, it should be a test that's done on every single one of them, aside from whatever tests they're doing now. Because I can totally see you being in a position like that, right?
Yeah.
But your insurance doesn't want to pay for MRI to do cognitive testing.
Yeah.
And so you just don't get it. and you're stuck in your own head.
Your insurance wouldn't even want to cover any type of test, probably. So
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to fight for it somehow, you know, or get. So it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Because if they could do this and do the testing and figure out a way to determine that, then that can change. Basically, it can change a lot. This kind of goes back to when they bury dead people.
Yeah.
But they're not. Right? Because they're in coffins and they had like little bells on strings and stuff like that. And they had in cemeteries, they'd hear the bells ringing.
Yeah.
And they'd run over and dig you up real quick. Because for whatever reason, they thought you were dead, but you weren't dead. And they talk about like when they open up a casket and there were claw marks from the inside. It's all of that stuff. It's all the terrible sort of like Edgar Allan Poe, awful stories. And then you're like, well, you know, this disturbed me because I could see this totally happening, especially depending on what level of care you get from whatever hospital and stuff. We're like, yep, nobody's home.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, in your head going, I'm alive.
Stop.
I'm there. Isn't it awful?
Stop.
I mean, 10%, you're like, all right, that's acceptable, right? You might not, but 25%, that's a quarter of people that have these issues or that have sustained something and put them in this particular state.
Yeah.
This vegetative state, are totally aware of what you're saying and what you're doing and are trying to do their thing. And because they don't know. Mm-hmm. Physicians, doctors, they really don't know because you got people just wake up after being in a coma for 10 years just fine, playing cards at a table, waiting for you to show up and go, hey, doc, how's it going? And they hear everything and they know everything that's going on. They know the people who are nice to them. Yeah.
Stop.
That's my disturbing sort of dystopian whatever that was that I put in there. So that's the weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead and begin to wrap up the podcast by talking about something we had mentioned before in passing, the idea of bringing extinct animals back. And we actually talked about the woolly mammoth being something that's close enough to be brought back, or what they call, de-extinction.
Yeah.
And it's getting close. It's going to happen. They're working towards it, right? Mm-hmm. And right now we're closer than people think. So woolly mammoth de-extinction is nearing reality, and we have no idea what happens next.
Okay.
Of course we don't. We don't know anything. We're just doing this stuff, like scientists sending messages out into space. Come on down. It's like, why would you do that, right?
Yeah.
No good will come of this sort of thing. So this is fun. This is kind of for about 7 minutes in 2003, scientists reversed extinction.
Wow.
So, scientists are saying they're close to resurrecting woolly mammoth, and, the plans involve inserting genes from, for woolly mammoth traits into, of course, other,
Yeah. But they're talking about in 2003, they resurrected the lineage of the Pyrenean ibex.
Yeah, it's an ibex.
Yeah. The last known member of its subspecies, a female named Celia, had died 3 years earlier. They connected DNA from Celia's ear before her death and injected her genetic material into a domesticated goat egg cell with its nucleus removed. The resulting clone, the first and only extinct creature to have been revived at the time, died soon after birth due to a lung defect. So although the effort failed to produce a healthy animal, de-extinction science has advanced dramatically in the past 2 decades. Technology is no longer a significant hurdle to revive recently extinct species, and in many cases, we have enough DNA to piece together functional genomes for cloning. The question isn't so much whether we can resurrect lost species, but if we should.
Yeah.
And me being the person that I am, okay, so the red wolves of North Carolina, of the Carolinas, I think we're down to literally 37 red wolves in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And one of the males, he was the best producer of heirs, we'll say. He was killed last year, needlessly. And I think that's a species that does a lot for the environment. There's studies in Yellowstone and other areas where, if the wolf population is intact and healthy and thriving, it affects detrimental species, anywhere from bad bugs to, the health of our trout waters. So
yeah, but when they go unchecked, uncontrolled, unregulated, then it causes a problem.
But that unchecked and unregulated is not going to be an issue when we literally only have 37 left here.
Yeah.
So why not bring red wolves back? That would be a good thing. Do we want the dodo back or the woolly mammoth?
Well, that's because a Texas-based biotechnology and genetic engineering company plans to bring back 3 species.
Yeah.
Right? The dodo, like you were saying, the Tasmanian tiger.
The thylacine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the woolly mammoth. I guess if you can bring 3 back, those are probably the safest. Because, think about it. We have a whole movie series about bringing dinosaurs back, right? Look how, and that would probably go exactly how the movies.
As it's been outlined for several times.
It's like, we want to bring dinosaurs back. Well, let me show you these research movies that you could watch. Because it would happen. Even it doesn't matter if you put them on an island somewhere. It's going to happen, right? Things fly. Like when they said coyotes would never cross the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
And that was in the news. As we were driving to move to New Mexico, and I counted 7.
Yeah.
In Tennessee alone. And it's like, well, I guess that's not right. Because we talked about it over our CB radios as we were caravanning to go to New Mexico. I just think that, I don't know. The woolly mammoth would be cool, but we base everything that we know off these extinct animals off what we think they were like. What if the woolly mammoth is just some crazy blood savage who attack anything it sees that it doesn't like wearing shoes? We don't really know.
And see, that's the other thing.
It's like bringing back a Cro-Magnon man, right? We're going to compare it to regular smart elephants that's had 100,000 years of development to just a caveman elephant.
And see, that's
just smashing stuff.
Yeah, at least the elephants we have now have coexisted for about at least 1,000 years next to man.
A lot of development has occurred.
So they've coexisted with another sentient species for X amount of time. Woolly mammoths, we were coming into town as they were leaving town. So who knows their reaction? And we watched those nature shows when we were both had COVID, and one of them, I think you actually were asleep, but it was kind of talking about how the woolly mammoth was built in such a way to really defend itself from apex predators.
Yeah.
And so what if we get one and it goes nuts? It's well guarded. It's got thick hide. It's going to be hard to take it down once it gets out of control. Maybe this is going to sound very America-centric, but I have my species that I want to come back, which red wolves is at the top of the list. The next one's going to be buffalo. And then the North American, South American panthers are large cats, which that's the most dangerous one,
I don't think that would be too hard to bring them back. I think they're still out there.
They are, but not enough to actually, they are classified as extinct.
Sure.
But extinct means there might be 10 or 16 floating around, between South America.
Well, with the big
North
cats,
America.
I just think about those Indian villages was just full of man-eating tigers because they got nothing else to eat, so they just start hunting people and eating them.
But we have this jaguar species. That's supposed to be, Central America and North America, and it's down to maybe 4.
Well, I don't know, because we did a podcast where basically the problem was that they were hopping the fence.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot more, and they were just going back and forth because you had one side.
But they're
recording the same numbers.
The species that I've talked about, going with what this website says, I feel that they would enrich biodiversity, replenish vital ecological roles, and bolster ecosystem resilience. I think that would happen if we brought back red wolves and buffalo on jaguars, but at least I think they would really help.
Can you just say jaguar?
Jaguar.
No, not jaguar.
Jaguars?
No.
What am I saying?
Jaguar.
Jaguar. What? Stop it.
Can you say penguin?
Penguin. Penguin.
All right, speaking of penguin, we're going to go. I think we're about done with the whole jaguar, penguin.
Jaguar. What?
It's cool, man. Well, it's just funny. Look at the jaguars. It's Jaguar.
Jaguar.
We've watched enough Top Gear and Grand Tour to hear them
Jaguar.
Say Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Jaguar. G-U.
Jaguar.
All right. I should make that the clip that we play. Can you say Jaguar? Jaguar. All right, anyway, I do appreciate you taking time to listen to the CreepGeeks Podcast or to CreepGeeks Podcast. It is interchangeable. So, there you go. And, you're a lot cooler than you think if you listen to the podcast, especially if you make it all the way through. Just saying. So, anyway.
You're mean.
I'm not mean. Well, maybe a little. I'm a
Be glad we're not penguins. I'd throw a rock at you right now.
I would block it with my little flightless arms. All right, anyway. See you later. Take it easy. You're going to do your thing where you tell people about stuff.
No, because you're mean.
I'm not mean. It's just funny. Jaguars. Jaguar?
I'm going to bring one back just to deal with you.
That's okay. Because I will use the power of closed doors with locks on them to keep a lot of animals.
And we've seen how that works for people on the YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's YouTube. Mm-hmm. I'll just ask an AI if it could make some kind of Jaguar spray. Right? And I'll pay my $5 on Fiverr to get my little plan and probably get there to shoot it with some spray with the spray. And the only thing it does is make my eyes burn and makes the Jaguar like, I'm now really hungry. So, yeah, we recently went to a, let me turn this off, I guess. I'm still talking. We recently went to Grandfather Mountain where they have a nature thing along with a mile-high swinging bridge, which is pretty neat. And went to this wildlife center, and they have bears, which look very sad, actually. They may have just been well-fed and lazy, but they looked really sad to me. And then they had eagle, and then they had the cougars, right?
Yeah, mountain lions.
And that one mountain lion just making this, they have little routes that they walk because I guess they're so bored. But one of them just stopped and gave me the eye, like, look at that fat guy up there.
I figured it out.
Maybe he thought I was a bear.
It was your shirt because you had your little high-tech shirt on and it was making the swishy swish.
I was standing dead still. I have the video.
You think you were standing dead still.
I was totally standing still. And it's a gray shirt. He
was
probably thought I was a big fat bird. He's like, look at the size. Because they
look
probably
at the size of that heron.
Right? They look at the size of that pigeon. It just stopped and stared at me.
I think it was
and
your
I was
shirt.
like, it's like, man, I think that you were like, you look delicious. And I was like, I think that cat hates me. Right? I don't know. It was funny.
Oh, I got told the reason the bears seemed depressed was because it was unusually hot that day at Grandfather Mountain. And I said, well,
who
why
told
don't
you that?
Friends.
You know what? It
and
was
I said,
not.
Why didn't they get in the water then?
Why didn't I sweat?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I wasn't sweating at all.
Yeah, but they're also 200 pounds more than you, so.
Yeah, but they're built that way. It was not hot. They were sad.
I know. I still think they were sad.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, anyway, we do appreciate you taking time to listen to the podcast. We have all sorts of social media places for you to check us out. And if you'd like to join Patreon, you can certainly do that. You can say hi to the other Patreon members out there. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. But this has been Season 8, Episode 319 of CreepGeeks Podcast.
Yep.
So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can direct them to our manager, Pepper, and she'll take care of it for you.
Yep.
So anyway, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.